Hi there, and welcome to another episode of Lore of the Cards, the series that looks to inform you about the lore associated with your Hearthstone deck. Some lore connections we investigate later will be obvious, but with some cards you must scrabble about in the dark to find a glimmer of light. Once found, no light shines brighter than the shattered Sun Cleric. Today we will look at who the art actually portrays and, as a result, find out how the Shattered Sun came to be. The art of the card is by Doug Alexander, an American-based artist with an enviable clients list, which includes Microsoft, Sony, Marvel and DC, to name but a few. You can see his work on his website www.anacostudios.com and his DeviantArt page. As well as producing works for the WoW TCG, he has also produced magic cards and concept art for the sci-fi channels The Amazing Screw-On Head. With regards to Warcraft lore characters, I could only dig up a single character, the proud Lady Liadrin, or Liadrin, however you want to pronounce it. To understand the choices made by Liadrin, I believe it is important to understand the trials and tribulations of the High Elves, most of whom are now known as Blood Elves. The original High Elves actually descended from exiled Night Elves. After the Burning Legion's first invasion, the practice of arcane magic was outlawed by Malfurion Stormrage. What a square! The use of arcane magic was punishable by death. Many of the Highborn, basically the Night Elf nobility, whose flagrant use of magic originally attracted the Burning Legion, began to experience withdrawal. Dathramar's Sunstrider protested the restriction, but achieved no ground. In frustration, he and the great number of followers he had gathered unleashed a magical storm on Ashenvale. Despite this obvious breach of the rules, the Night Elf Druids could not bring themselves to execute so many of their own. Dathramar and his followers were exiled and sent east across the sea, where they landed on the shores of the Eastern Kingdoms. In this new land, they were able to practice the arcane arts as they saw fit. Their skin changed from purple to a pale white. They founded their kingdom of quel'thalas, with a magic barrier surrounding it to hide their use of arcane power from the Burning Legion, and they created the Sunwell, a magical font of great power that sated their arcane withdrawal. These elves were no longer known as Night Elves, but were called High Elves, or kel'thuzad in their native tongue. The High Elves didn't exactly have a peaceful existence in the 7,500 years before the first Orc invasion. They were almost constantly at war with the Armani Troll Empire. While their race suffered greatly, the High Elves always ended up on top. That was until the undead scourge swept over the lands of quel'thalas as part of the Third War. The corrupted Prince Arthas Menethil, who would later become the Lich King and torment Azeroth for many years to come, needed the powers of the Sunwell to revive the human necromancer kel'thuzad. Kel'thuzad would then summon Archimonde, leader of the Burning Legion's armies, for the Legion's second attack on Azeroth. While the High Elves under the command of Sylvanas Windrunner fought bravely and set the Scourge back many a time, the unrelenting undead forces ploughed their way into Silvermoon, the High Elf capital, and slaughtered around 90% of the High Elven race. Before the mass genocide of quel'thalas, Lady Liadrin had been a priestess of the light. The light is a force in the Warcraft universe that can be summoned through faith to heal and protect. After the Scourge cut its bloody path, Lady Liadrin was convinced the light had abandoned her people in their time of greatest need, and as a result, renounced her vows. With the Sunwell corrupted, the High Elves had lost the source which fed their magic addiction. The race, as before, began to suffer from arcane withdrawal, and needed to find a new source to feed this addiction. Lady Liadrin and many of her kin gathered under the banner of the last remaining of the Sunstrider lineage, which had been the ruling line of the High Elves, Prince Kael'Thas, Sunstrider. The remnants of the High Elves now called themselves Blood Elves in honour of their fallen comrades, or Sindorai in their native tongue. Kael'Thas and the Blood Elves would soon leave the alliance. Kael and a group of his followers were thrown into an unwinnable battle against the undead by the racist Lord Garithos. In desperation, Kael accepted help from Lady Vash and her Naga, who wished to help the Blood Elves due to their common lineage. The Naga were not exactly popular with the alliance, and when Garithos found Kael had accepted their aid, he ordered the Blood Elves' execution. Kael and his people were freed by the Naga, and were drafted in to serve Illidan's Stormrage, escaping through a portal to the world known as Outland. Illidan, in return for Kael's services, pledged to keep Kael's people's thirst for magic quenched. Several events took place in Outland, which led to Illidan leading his forces against the Lich King in Northrend. They were thwarted, however, by Arthas, who, after leaving Illidan writhing in the snow, ascended the frozen throne, donned the Lich King's helm, and merged with him to become an even more potent, malevolent being, no longer confined by a block of ice. Kael and Vash retreated, taking their unconscious master with them. With his new allies, Kael again went to Outland, taking about 15% of the Blood Elf population with him. His mission was to find a lasting cure for the Blood Elf's magic addiction, and a new homeland for his people. He sent Grand Magister Romoth back to quel'thalas, where he and other Blood Elf remnants reclaimed portions of the land from the undead. Romoth also showed the Blood Elves the technique of siphoning arcane energies to feed their addiction, as taught by Illidan. From here the Blood Elves found themselves, Lady Liadrin included, waiting eagerly for word from Kael in Outland. As part of his conquests in Outland, Kael and his troops were able to overpower and capture a hugely powerful being and send it back to their people in Azeroth, Muru the Naru. The Naru are a race of energy beings with a deep connection to the Holy Light, and some lore buffs think they may be the source of the light. While at first Muru was merely used as a powerful entity to quench the Blood Elves' magic addiction, Astalor Bloodsworn found a new purpose for the being. Since most Blood Elves had lost their faith in the light and renounced their vows, the light was unable to be wielded by the race through the conventional means, faith and willpower. What Bloodsworn had discovered was a method of siphoning the light through Muru and forcing it into obeying the will of those who had no faith in the light. Lady Liadrin, her contempt for the light abandoning her people still strong, stepped forward as the first volunteer to force the light into obeying her iron will. She succeeded in mastering this new way of wielding the light and became the first of the Blood Knights, becoming their matron and leader, and the first ever paladin to join the ranks of the Horde. Lady Liadrin's Blood Knights became revered by many in Blood Elven society, who admired the Knights' unwavering will to force the light to their command. They saw it as a kind of justice, forcing the light when it had abandoned them in the past. Some did not approve of the Blood Knights' methods for achieving this power. Thrall and Cairn, leaders of the Horde, found this method unsettling, but they could not deny the Blood Knights' huge strategic value, and it is in fact very likely due to their creation that the Blood Elves were accepted into the Horde. The Blood Elf Rangers, known as the Fast Riders, also did not approve of the enslavement of Muru. This did not stop the Blood Knights rising up the political ranks and becoming very much the backbone of the Blood Elven army. After making huge steps toward achieving the greatness their race had once known, Lady Liadrin and her people were betrayed from the most unlikely of sources, Prince Kael'Thas Sunstrider. It would appear that the pressure of saving and restoring the greatness of his race had driven him mad, and he had sided with the leader of the Burning Legion's armies since Archimonde's demise, Kil'Jaden the Deceiver. Kael intended to bring the Deceiver into Azeroth using a portal created at the site of the Sunwell. To achieve all the power he could, Kael attacked his own people to recapture Muru. He succeeded using his strongest soldiers, the Fellblood, elves that had been empowered through drinking demon blood. With the Blood Knight's source of power gone, Lady Liadrin sought a new source for her followers. Her search led her to Shattrath City, which was the main hub for World of Warcraft players during the Burning Crusade expansion. There she met with the city's leader, Adal, a Naru much like Muru. Strangely, Adal held no resentment for Liadrin and her kin for siphoning Muru's energy. In fact, he and Muru had known it would transpire. It had been foretold by the Draenei racial leader, Velen, who has a knack for seeing the future. Silvery moon, washed in blood, led astray into the night, armed with a sword of broken light. Broken, then betrayed by one, standing there bestride the sun. At darkest hour, redemption comes, a knightly lady sworn to blood. With this realization, Lady Liadrin renounced her loyalty to the House of Sunstrider and joined the Shattered Sun offensive. The Shattered Sun was a force created specifically to stop Kael's plan. It is made up of two groups that used to be adversaries, the Aldor and the Squires. The Aldor are an ancient order of Draenei priests that reside in Shattrath, led by priestess Ishana, and loyal to the Naru. They needed to fend off many a Blood Elf attack on Shattrath. The Squires were once the best and brightest of Kael's army, but defected after a vision received by Voronthal the Seer, their leader. The Squires marched into Shattrath on Kael's order, but Voronthal's vision had told him his race's only hope of survival was with the Naru. Before uniting to form the Shattered Sun, there was animosity between the factions, as they had once been enemies, fighting each other. The offensive succeeded in killing Kael'Thas and preventing Kil'Jaden from entering the world. As part of the attack on Kil'Jaden, a corrupted Muru also had to be slain, but not without leaving a spark of his essence behind. It was thanks to Muru's spark that the Blood Knight's final redemption came.
Mortal heroes, your victory here today was foretold long ago. My brother's anguished cry of defeat will echo across the universe, bringing renewed hope to all those who still stand against the burning crusade. As the Legion's final defeat draws ever nearer, stand proud in the knowledge that you have saved worlds without number from the flame. Just as this day marks an ending, so too does it herald a new beginning. The creature Entropius, whom you were forced to destroy, was once the noble Naru, Mu'ul. In life, Mu'ul channeled vast energies of light and hope. For a time, a misguided few sought to steal those energies.
Our arrogance was unpardonable. We damned one of the most noble beings of all. We will never atone for this sin.
Then fortunate it is that I have reclaimed the noble Naru's spark from where it fell. Where faith dwells, hope is never lost, young blood elf.
Can it be?
Gaze now, mortals, upon the heart of Muru, unblemished, bathed by the light of creation, just as it was at the dawn. In time, the light and hope held within will rebirth more than this mere fount of power. Mayhap they will rebirth the soul of a nation.
Blessed ancestors! I feel it! So much love. So much grace. There are no words. Impossible to describe.
Salvation, young one. It waits for us all. Farewell.
With the Sunwell restored, so too was the Blood Elves' source of power, their actions no longer being ruled by their magic addiction. The Blood Knights are now able to draw off the Sunwell as the source for their power, as it is a mixture of both holy and arcane magics. They are also able to wield the light via conventional means, as the restoration of the Sunwell restored their faith. In the Wrath of the Lich King expansion, as part of a quest chain to restore the elven blade quel'thalas, Liadrin can be found preaching to pilgrims at the Sunwell. My brothers and sisters, words cannot describe what I felt when I saw the Sunwell rekindled. In that moment, the light revealed to me the truth of the terrible things I'd done. Our people had walked a dark path, and mine was among the darkest of them all. But the light showed me that I was not lost. It helped me to find strength to survive in spite of all that had happened, and all the evil I had wrought. It is a strength that we Sin'dorei all share. It is a strength we will need to free ourselves of the addiction ravaging our people. It will be the most difficult battle we have ever faced, but our resolve and the power of the Sunwell will sustain us until we have been restored to our greatness. The Blood Knights are expected to feature in the next expansion, Warlords of Draenor, but Liadrin has made one final addition to WoW's current lore. During Garrosh's attack on Theramore, none of the main elf leaders, Liadrin included, actually showed up to the battle, probably because they protested his aggression and Garrosh's methods. Because he's a douche. So, there you have it, the tale of Lady Liadrin. She felt abandoned and as a result made dark choices, but with divine intervention was able to see the error of her ways and now looks to make up for the evil she wrought. If you have enjoyed this video, please like, share and subscribe to the Six Gamers channel. We also have a dungeon lore and run series called The Three Musketeers, so do please check that out too. Until next time guys, thank you so much and goodbye.